I was 10 years old when my brother Andy joined the Army Air Force in 1943. Andy was the second oldest of our siblings. He graduated from Napoleon High School in 1940 and worked as a manager at Central Lumber in Long Lake, South Dakota. In early 1942, Andy went to Wichita, Kansas to attend an aviation school. And 3 months later, he took a job with Consolidated Aircraft in San Diego. He came back to work on my dad's farm for a little while before he left for his service training. In December of '43, Andy boarded a ship out of a New Jersey harbor with 5,000 U.S. soldiers, mostly of them Air Corps, headed for England to help the Allied forces fight the Germans in World War II. Their destination was the town of Ipswich on the southeastern coast of England, where a base for B-17 bomber airplanes was located. Andy was a member of the 8th Air Force 305 Bomber Group. The voice you will hear next is that of Lloyd Boling. Lloyd was a fellow crew member of Andy's, and together with 8 to 9 other men, they flew bombing missions over Germany.
I first met Andy in Harrington, Kansas. They put the crew together in Harrington, Kansas. And we were only there like a week, something like that. And then we moved to Lincoln, Nebraska for 3 or 4 days or a week. And then on into Sioux City, Iowa, where we trained for, I'm not sure how long, a couple of months, something like that. Probably flew 12, 15 training missions, something like that, out of Sioux City. And during this time, Andy and I sometimes go to movies or we'd go to skating. I remember one time I went skating and we'd do these things, and Andy was like I was at that time. I didn't like to go out and get in a big dance and drinking situation because that wasn't our job. We both liked the same things.
October 7, 1944 was a Saturday. Andy and his crewmates were flying their 17th mission. They had just finished successfully bombing their target in Germany. On their way back to their base in England, around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, their B-17 was hit by German aircraft guns. Our parents received a telegram on October 23rd, 1944, that Andy was missing in action. Our mother was in the hospital and had given birth to our youngest brother, Carl, just 3 days before. Andy's crewmate Lloyd recounts the day that their plane went down.
We had flown, I believe, my memory and my record says this was our 17th mission that we were shot down. But we had been on our mission and bombed this city with no losses. In fact, we had a real good mission up to this point. And we had already dropped our bombs and was on our way home and had let down to 23,000 feet. We flew over an air base. And this air base was being used to store and haul out B-2 rockets. If you remember those that were hitting England, they opened up with everything they had on us just as we approached this air base. I was back in the waist. We had a 10-man crew that day, and we were still in combat position. And as we went over this, the first shot that we received from this 88 went about for me to Rose there, just went clank, and it didn't explode. So the shell hit the wing and where it was supporting the engine, and it just left it. By that time, we started fighting to get out of there. I mean, you know, doing everything we could to get ready to get out. And Andy was in the ball turret. And that was his combat position. When that plane blew in two, the only man that, other than myself, that got out was the man where it blew in two. Andy in that ball didn't have a chance to get out.
Lloyd and one other crew member survived that day, only to become prisoners until the war in Europe ended about 7 months later. The war ended on May 8, 1945. Lloyd was asked by his German captors to identify the bodies of his fellow crew flight members who had died. Lloyd is confident that Andy and the 7 other crew members died due to injuries from the plane explosion and the crash. The bodies of all 8 crew members were recovered by German forces, buried in a public cemetery in Sprechel, Germany. Allied forces eventually recovered the bodies and reburied them in a military cemetery in Belgium.
He was the kindest, most considerate men and best men that I've ever known in life. He went about his work in a workmanlike manner, his duties. He never complained. He done what his job was, and he done it well. And if there ever was a true hero, it would be Andy. And it's too bad that the heroes can't just stay with us.
It took almost 5 years after his death before Andy's body was returned to his family. On June 14, 1949, Andy was laid to his final resting place in St. Boniface Cemetery in rural Kintyre, North Dakota, about 2 miles from the family's farm home. For our parents, Carl and Mary, and my siblings, Joe, Margaret, Rose, Al, Tony, Carl, and myself, Chris, there was nothing more to be done but to carry on.